In terms of odd collections,
It's actually a tiger fetus.
the National Wildlife Property Repository might very well be king forever.
This is a rhino foot ice container.
This not-so-secret, out-of-the-way complex in Denver has been called macabre, bizarre, and unique.
You're gonna have a number of different emotions.
And at first glance, it has some very Raiders of the Lost Ark, secret government warehouse vibes all about it.
We've gotten that before, absolutely.
The difference here being,
We are trying to get our material back out into the community.
the material in question ranges.
Right now we have about 1.3 million confiscated items. And there's everything from the smallest of little trinkets up to some of these larger items like this leopard here.
The 22,000 square foot display is filled with rows and rows of stuffed innards and carved outards of seized wildlife contraband, much of it coming from endangered species, all of it commercialized illegally.
These boxes on this pallet here contain the result of one seizure that we had.
Other seizures have brought in rhino heads, elephant trunks, lion mounts, hundreds of reptile skin boots, and other animal skin products.
And then the other piece that is here, this is probably a juvenile, a baby rhino foot there.
And then there's this row.
One of the aisles that people can appreciate a little bit is the big cat aisle here.
Displaying dozens of severed heads and hundreds of pelts, products all illegal and all of cat.
And when we see them collected like this, it really gives us that perspective of the volume of these types of things coming in.
The most singular, maybe most macabre of the entire bunch, is that first image I showed you, a stuffed and mounted tiger fetus.
Just seems rather interesting. It isn't something that I can imagine who would want that.
But bad taste, as they say in the warehouse, is not a crime by itself.
At the end of the day, the use is not the problem, it's the species that we're worried about and the sustainability of that species into the future.
Moving forward through the piles of dead things,
This warehouse really ascribes a visual.
brought us to the sea turtle aisle.
We have shells that are stacked on one another, and we even have whole turtles that have been stuffed.
Here is a species that is heavily protected and still mined for their beautiful hardware.
Again, it represents the unsustainability of the trade.
So at this point, now that we've seen a gratuitous amount of trafficked animal pieces,
You never know what is going to come in next.
you might be wondering why our government has this regularly stocked, semi-secret house of animal curiosities.
We really want these items that are seized and confiscated to be repurposed to help educate people about the species rather than just have them be contraband.
That answer dates back a few decades when the warehouse was first established, starting a continuous mission of public education. Back then, often, once government employees seized illegally commercialized wildlife items, they stored them.
The value of maintaining those was kind of established, and so the collection grew from there.
Over the years, that stockpile grew too large to be managed by its then current volunteer team, and the NWPR was created to deal with it. Even so,
We can't accept every single confiscation, and we would need probably 10 facilities to be able to accomplish that.
meaning that this confiscation compilation is only a small slice of what is being trafficked.
It's happening, but now we can see the volume that's coming in, and we can really start to look out for things of how do we use wildlife in our daily lives.
The rest of the contraband is tied up in court cases or investigations, housed at U.S. ports of entry where they were seized or sometimes destroyed. But once they're here, what happens? The short answer is they don't always stay.
If we're able to get this back out into the hands, it's that ripple effect.
Each year, the very few full-time employees at the NWPR send some of the items
Thousands.
back out to libraries, schools, museums, and other conservation-minded groups, bringing these lost animals new life.
And so just walking through this warehouse, you're not able to see the good that comes from this and the benefit that this material has. So I think that's what That is really what gives me hope, and I hope that people leave here with a bit of that sense of optimism.
The final goal
is to be able to educate people about wildlife, and at the end of the day, that helps us accomplish our mission.